Would you like to have more power on your serve without actually trying to swing harder? I know it seems like that shouldn't be possible, Kevin, because the only way you're going to get more power in the serve is to swing harder to get more acceleration to the ball, right? Well, wrong. I'm going to show you a way of getting more power in your serve without swinging harder. So if you want to learn how, keep watching. So you're probably thinking like, how is this possible? How can I get more power in my serve without swinging harder? First of all, the kind of lead in before we go through this is we want to make sure we're using all of our body, but there is a key component that we're going to focus on, which is pronation, and how to effectively pronate to make sure you get the most out of your pronation. And so we're going to learn how to do that now. But before we go any further, I want to warn you again, we want to make sure we're using our entire body. I think of when you're serving is learning how to use the ground force and taking the ground force and shifting up through the legs, the hips, then the shoulders, and then to the arm. We're going to focus on the last part because I feel like a lot of people don't understand the true power and how much power they can get from just focusing on this arm. But if you really want to take your serve to the next level, you got to have it all. So I'll leave a link in the description to a video that I made that can help you with that. But let's get started. The first idea we want to have is pronation. Okay, and you're probably thinking about what is pronation, especially when it has to do with the serve. Pronation is just where we take our forearm and we're turning it in towards me. So I'm taking my thumb, I like to do thumbs up, thumbs down. So this is a really quick exercise. If you're not used to serving with pronation, what we can do is just going thumbs up, thumbs down. I'll take you through a couple more drills, but this just really helps you understand what pronation is. And where the confusion is where players are either in one of two camps. A, they don't pronate because they don't know how to use pronation with their current grip. B, they just don't pronate. And they might have the right grip, but they find themselves chopping the ball and they're getting a lot of spin on the ball, but they're not getting a lot of pace. So let's tackle both before we move forward. First of all, you need a solid continental grip to pronate. And not because you can't pronate with another grip, but to be effective with your serve, you want to have somewhere around a continental to a very, very soft Eastern grip. This is the reason why. When you have a continental grip, the benefits of having a continental grip is when we send a racket this way, you can see how my racket face is pointing in the direction of the court. Now, here's the key. I'm going to be swinging this way, which creates spin, okay? And I can send the racket by pronating. You can see how pronating can send the racket forward. And so we get a combination of both of these, where we're driving spin through the ball, and then we can also use our pronation muscles to send the racket forward. So at the same time, we're driving and sending the racket forward. So we get the combination of both. Where the problem is where if you don't have a continental grip, you get this. And you're like, uh-oh, there's a problem here because I can't really send spin through the ball like this. It's very hard with my grip above my head. But I can drive through the ball. But where I'm driving through the ball, generally I'm using my wrist. We don't want that. Even with a soft Eastern grip, not full continental, but a little soft, you can see how it sets the racket up in that same position before, where I can still get my racket moving this way and pronate and drive. And that's the key. You have the combination of brushing, because I'm pulling the racket forward this way, while pronating, which is sending the racket forward. So camp number two. You may be going, hey, I'm going out here and I'm brushing the life out of the ball. I'm sending the edge through the ball, but the ball doesn't go anywhere, so I have to swing harder. It's because you don't have the pronation. So what you get is this. You get a spin ball. Even though that doesn't make it to barely the net, I can make it get to the net. Ugh. But you hear, hopefully, how much this brush it has on it. What you're missing is you're missing the lack of pronation, so as I'm swinging, I can... And that's a very different sound because I'm getting the brush and I'm pronating, which sends the racket forward, the combination of the two. And so back to the original question, which is how can I learn to serve harder without swinging faster? And this is the reason why you can learn to swing harder without swinging faster. Basically, when you're serving and you're serving with spin, hopefully, because spin will help bring the ball down, you have a certain ratio, a certain amount of force you can use. Meaning we can be 100% through the ball, death, okay, wow, that was actually close to being in. Or we can be 100% brushing the ball, okay? And obviously these are generalizations because if I was 100% through the ball, it'd just keep going. And if I was 100% brushing the ball, it would probably just not even get to the net. So even with these, there's some generalizations here. But what we want to do is understand the ratio. So if you want to get more pace without swinging hard, we take the ratio of the amount of brush we're using and we send it through the ball. So we get less brush and we get more penetration through the ball. That's how you can do it. So now that you understand it, let's go do some drills. The very first drill I want you to do is what we talked about earlier. Just get used to, if you're not having, or you don't, not used to pronating, just doing this thumbs up, thumbs down drill. Now here's one other element that will come down with pronation. A lot of times if you keep pronating, you'll use internal rotation, and that's another big muscle that you can add to really help accelerate the racket through, okay? But right here, we're just gonna start doing this. So I'm actually going, this is just pronation, and I'm gonna add some internal rotation. So just practice this at home right now, okay? This kind of like, I think of Mortal Kombat, if you know what that game is, where they're like, at the end, it's like, finish him, and just practice this. This is gonna be really key to sending the racket forward, creating all thrust. So if I just even did this with the ball, you can see how there's no spin on the ball, and hence the ball goes forward. Now, one other key metric that I think is really important is when we get to contact, making sure that we don't have a straight hand, because if my hand's straight and I pronate, you can see how this isn't gonna really send the racket forward. What really sends the racket forward is having the leverage of this position, kind of a semi-L shape. And now look at the difference between straight arm and how the racket moves, and as I bend it, now look how the same effort in turning my forearm or pronating is now really sending the racket forward. And so when we make contact here, what we want to make sure is we're making contact, we're not straight, where some coaches and players are like trying to reach up to make contact. You want some bend so you get that leverage action, okay? Because if we're straight, again, not a lot of energy going through the ball, bent, a lot more energy going through the ball. And so now that we have this, now we got to combine it with the brush. And so now what I want you to do is simply brush and then turn or pronate. And so as I'm brushing and pronating, you'll get this extreme action where I'm probably adding some internal rotation of now I'm really sending the racket forward. And so now we have to make sure we have the right ratio. So what I want you to do is simple, is that I want you to do a bounce drill. And so the very first one is I'm gonna send the racket down and just brush it just like this. So this would be the ratio of, let's say, 90% spin versus 10% penetration. And it'll get you a ball like this. The ball still goes down, but it's very spinning. And then what we're gonna do is start adding in some pronation, which will go, let's say 60-40. I'm gonna add in pronation, whoa. Gotta be careful with this because the ball's gonna go faster. And if I just throw it up and add in pronation, you can see how the ball reacts very differently. I'm actually swinging less or not as fast as I was before. So I'll do it again. This is fast, but you see how the ball doesn't go that high in the air compared to now that ball has a little bit of spin. Okay, this might be 70-30, okay? And then if I take it up even more, let's say 80 penetration, a little bit of spin, it'll look something like this. You can see how high the ball is going. And this is basically what's happening over your head. You're doing this drill here, but you're doing it here. And this is how you get enough spin to create consistency in your serve, but then you can start applying more force to get more pop on your serve without having to overwork your serve. And so once you do this drill, I want you to do it above your head. And again, you need to have the continental grip and you need to have a firm understanding about how to hit a serve. I'll link a video in the end of this video so you know that. So if we just even start here, all I'm going to do is the same motion that I did here, but above my head. Now I'm going to calibrate to what ratio of spin I want. So if I want a ball that has a lot of spin and not a lot of penetration, let's say you're nervous and you're hitting a serve, I'd go here. And you can really hear it. And you can also see my finish. So right there, you can say my ratio is very high on the spin side and my pronation or my force driving through isn't that much. Basically, I'm pronating a little bit later. And then after you hit probably like 10 of those, what I want you to do is up the pronation level. So we went, let's say, a 10 or a 20 to about a 50. And so now what you're gonna see is the same ball and it goes a lot faster and I'm not even swinging that much harder. And I'm not really trying to do everything, but I'm trying to really pinpoint what you can do to start swinging the same speed and get more power. Now, we're gonna take it up a notch and go probably like 70-30. So that means 70 on the pronation side, 30 on the spin side. And so now, and hopefully you can hear that. Oh, missed one. Missed one a little bit. So hopefully you can hear the amount of pop I'm getting on it. But here you have to understand, because I started missing some, because I'm just driving more through the ball, I don't have that same level of consistency. And so there is some other things you can do, which is adjust the racket face, but you can really see now how you can start learning to swing the racket the same speed and get more pop out of it. So now if I added this to my entire serve and did my entire motion, basically the thing that matters is making sure that when I get up to contact, I know the ratio of pronation to spin. So I missed that one, so I might add more spin to this one. And you can hear it. But it really comes down to not me swinging harder, but making sure that I have the right ratio. And you're thinking about these ratios. And now, if you start focusing on how to get more energy from the ground, you can use that to, without having to swing harder, send more energy through the hand and have an even bigger serve under your control. So if you want to learn how to do that, make sure you watch this video, because I'll walk you through step by step about how and what elements you need for your serve to make sure this isn't the only thing you're using, but it's just one component that can make your serve that much bigger.